All right, good morning, guys. Welcome to Trading Capital's daily live stream of the market open. Today is currently March the 18th, kicking off another trading week. There's lots to discuss. You have the markets absolutely gapping up today. QQQ up over 1%, SPY up 0.76, small caps kind of lagging today. You did have small caps performing a little bit better in the pre-market, but since the dollar has actually turned green, as well as yields, there's a few headwinds that aren't favoring higher price in small caps. Remember, small caps on Friday closed strong despite the Qs and S&P closing weak. So what I'm looking for today is this MSTR fade. I actually have a short position at 1774, and I'm looking at this Boeing trade here. Boeing, I am looking on the long side of Boeing. Basically, anything below 181, we're currently trading 180.75. It gets me super interested on the long side. Right now, you do have strength across mega cap land, but Microsoft, the biggest company in the world, is showing some weakness. You have Google carrying the market single-handedly today. Up on the session, Google's currently up 5.27% on the back of its implementation of Apple potentially using some of its AI licensing. So right now, Apple and Google are strong, lifting things. NVDA, of course, is strong as well. AMD's up, SMCI. Tesla's also up 4%. So Tesla's definitely more oversold. But I do think that the market initially were gapping up into some pretty decent resistance here. You can see on the hourly chart of the Qs, we're above that hourly resistance, the EMA 113. You're actually above the neckline. So that's what I'm watching for. Can the Qs actually stay above this pivot to this pivot, this neckline? Because if you stay below, you've actually triggered a head and shoulders pattern, and that does point to lower price action. If you can get above it, then you've negated it, and we have to reassess based off of pattern. We are seeing crypto under a lot of pressure this morning. Obviously, it did have that big dump in the morning, but if you take a look at Bitcoin, Bitcoin's actually going through a little bit of a sell-off candle here on the 10-minute chart, seeing a little bit of a wick. So that's why MicroStrategy has fallen there. So we're definitely in the driver's seat already on MSTR. So let's just see how that opens. I think what we could initially see in the morning is a gap up that gets faded, potentially getting pushed back down to about this 436, maybe in 435 area on the Qs. And then I do think that the markets can actually float higher as long as mega caps hold their gains. Apple is pumping, yes. Impressive pop on Google. Chris is on MSOS again. Yep, Canopy Growth up about 10%, 327. So our members are long CGC with a nice swing trade. So we are basically looking for further upside. MSTR just fell 4.62% there, guys. It did just fall just over 4%. So Bitcoin's under a lot of pressure at this moment in time, still showing strength. So at the moment, again, I think that we're in the driver's seat with this MSTR, and then we just need to focus on Boeing. I think Boeing can actually catch a bid, whether or not the bid is basically a retest of this trend line, call it 181.60, which we're currently at right now, or whether it's a double bottom. I think that there's a lucrative opportunity in this range for Boeing. All right, so we're going to take it slow here. It is Monday. I will be with you guys for at least the first hour, and then I have a couple things, but I'll keep the stream going. I will have to end the stream a little bit earlier today. The markets are open, guys. Markets are open. All right, guys, I just covered MSTR 1690.91. Boom. 1690.91, already up 2,300 within the first minute. I will post those gains to the server, but covered MSTR there at 1690. Boeing, I just went long at 181, guys. We're long Boeing at 181. We are long Boeing at 181. So still a decent amount of strength creeping back into the indices. Again, all out of MSTR for lovely $2,100. Sorry, $2,300. So it's a beautiful trade. It's a beautiful trade. So we're long Boeing, starter position at 181. I am interested in adding at the low of day again. A Pierce of 180, guys. A Pierce of 180 gets me interested in Boeing again. A Pierce of 180. We are seeing the Qs actually holding the majority of its gap up. Again, it is currently above that little bit of a resistance point that we're watching, but we need to see it hold above this upsloping trend line. Canopy growth got rejected. There is some weakness across the sectors, right? Not all sectors say are strong. You do have some weakness. Amazon's actually looking to get faded and potentially go negative. That could be a short trade on the Qs, but just remember, Qs are the strongest indice. Boeing going lower here, guys. I just added 179.56, guys. 179.56. That's the second entry on Boeing, guys. I repeat, that's the second entry on Boeing. My average is now sitting at 180.27. We are getting hammered here on the downside. Next ad level is 178.50, guys. 178.50. I do think even Boeing's getting appealing for a swing trade basis here. I think Boeing is getting kind of appealing for a swing trade basis. Firm. Qs are still holding firm here. SOXS look like they could catch a bid here, so the semi-short looks like they can catch a bid. MSOS coming back down to pre-market highs. Yep. But it's pushing right back up now. MSOS is actually pushing right back up. MSTR is trying to catch a bid here at the open. Boeing's trying to catch a bid off of the lows. So we are long Boeing at 179.54 average. Is a 3/4 position. So again, still unbelievable strength. AMD actually almost went negative there, guys. AMD did just almost go negative. Boeing trying to catch a little bit of a bid here and firm up. Guys, I am interested in potentially shorting the Qs. All right, guys, I'm shorting the Qs here. I'm shorting the Qs. 439.40. It's a starter position. 439.40. This is a 1/4 position. 439.40. $439.40. Still long Boeing. Let's see that dollar index. That's starting to rip higher here, which is why we're looking to fade the Qs a bit. Come on, now Boeing's green, guys. Boeing is green. Bitcoin's pumping back up to the high side. So you do have Boeing green, or sorry, Boeing trying to firm up a little bit here. Semiconductor bear ETF is also trying to firm up a bit. Do have still strength across the oil market. I think small caps could get faded today, although they are still holding a little bit green at the moment, up 0.27. Again, that Dixie has turned green, so that's typically not a positive sign for the overall indices. Look at the Qs, guys. All right, I'm going to add to my QQQ position, guys. I'll let you know if I get filled. They're basically above 440. We almost tagged that, but above 440 gets me interested again on the short side of the Qs. We already took profits on MicroStrategy, MSTR. I am interested in adding to my QQQ short position. Boeing's still trying to firm up here, but relatively weak on the session. Qs are now coming in just a tad. Again, next ad level on Boeing is going to be around 177.50, so about $1 lower, 177.50. Boeing is extremely oversold in comparison to many other names. Let's look at Adobe. How's Adobe doing today? Canopy growth absolutely flying, guys. CGC is absolutely flying. Bitcoin flying now. Adobe's trying to firm up. Adobe's up nicely on the session, up about 1.99%. So definitely impressive to see that. So we're just waiting on the Boeing chart. And again, 177.50 is the next add level on Boeing. I think Boeing's into an interesting swing tradable level here. I do think that Boeing can actually probably catch a pretty decent sized bid here. Qs are still pushing, guys. Qs are still pushing. Bitcoin firming up almost back to the highs, and it's actually turned green on the session. So impressive move for sure on Bitcoin, trying to firm up again. Bitcoin's been pretty volatile throughout this whole little distribution phase at these highs. It really doesn't seem to want to break down. Every time it falls, the dip is being bought. Google's coming up into a major gap fill. It actually filled its daily gap. So there is some resistance here on Google. I would anticipate some profit taking with this big of a move. You are seeing NVDA still at the highs. NVDA filled a massive technical gap. It's kind of into a short zone as well, but just difficult since the Qs have actually firmed up quite drastically since Microsoft was down by 0.7% in the pre-market, and now it's green. So I think that's what I really told my members was that, it's a hard thing to short the indices at the moment because you had that scenario where Microsoft could firm up and the rest of the market could firm up, and that could push things a lot higher. So at the moment, Microsoft did firm up. Indices obviously made a big push, but I do think that now you've had Microsoft make that really big red to green reversal. So we should see a little bit of profit taking come into this market. A little bit of profit taking should come into this market. Marijuana stocks still doing exceptionally well. Canopy growth, a high flyer up 13.31%. 13.31% on CGC, guys. Still waiting on Boeing, still waiting on Q short. Boeing's coming a little bit lower here. Again, guys, above 440. I mean, Qs did briefly push up there, but I did not get filled. I repeat, I did not get filled. It was a little bit, I was watching something else, but again, if we get a retest above 440, I think we can take a short. The Russell actually turned negative, guys. So now you have a little scenario where the Russell's turning negative. That could put additional pressure. Boeing trying to make new lows here. Boeing is trying to make new lows. Tesla got faded pretty sharply. Apple's still holding pretty resilient at the moment. Up nicely on the session, about 2.16%, but you do have the Russell negative. So now you're seeing this outperformance in the Qs. It's kind of very reminiscent to what we saw during the Google short at 152.30. Yeah, I think you could work out there. Yeah, 152.30. I mean, we get up there, that's a short for sure. I even think in this range you could see a pullback. But what's impressive is, you're seeing QQQ, again, seeing that big rotation of capital flowing into it. And you're seeing the regionals and Russell really struggling. So are we potentially entering a scenario where you're going to see something happen in the regionals? We all know that discount window is ended. So I think that there is a scenario we could see really some shakeup in the regionals. That's what I'm kind of watching for and waiting for. Still long Boeing. That one's not really cooperating at this point in time. Still have another entry to add. Boeing is, again, just making new daily lows, grinding lower and lower and lower in the grand scheme of thing. But you are into a whole host of support in this range. And you've breached an upside channel that really has kept price action in check for quite a little bit. All right, we're seeing Bitcoin weakening just a little bit. Dollars weakening. Microsoft still pushing up. All right, guys, I am going to add to my QQQ short right here for 440.18. 440.18. 439.75 is my average. 439.75. Dollars fading. Canopy growth new highs. Nat gas wanted to go up. Middle way, change mind. Yeah, nat gas is being faded a little bit. Interestingly enough, we're seeing nat gas being faded. Qs are still actually very firm at this point in time. You are retesting the Qs on the daily chart. There is a big resistance level here. You know, basically the resistance that we're hitting is this upsloping trend line that we're coming into. You know, you can see we're actually just slightly below it, but we are trying to bubble up into that zone. So there is a ton of resistance here, and really the resistance is on an hourly chart. So we're watching 1 minute candles, but right now you're above that key neckline. I expect a retest of this 437, this hourly chart moving average. Qs are now coming in. Boeing still going lower, guys, so I will add to my Boeing one more time. We'll add to my Boeing one more time at this 177.50 level. Haven't added yet, but I'm getting very intrigued to do so. So Bitcoin's down 1%, MicroStrategy down 6.3, Coinbase down. So nice job on those shorts, members. It gave you that pre-market plan to fade MicroStrategy. That was one of the top watches. We executed nicely, executed perfectly on that MicroStrategy. So wonderful, wonderful job there. Beautiful way to start the week. Tesla's coming in pretty sharply. Bitcoin's still dumping hard, guys. Really hard here. Bitcoin's dumping. And again, that's coming on the back of Russell weakness, QQQ strength. I do think Bitcoin's been in a little bit of this distribution phase. Good morning, Ram. Adobe, are we playing this one today? No, I'm not playing Adobe. I played it yesterday or Friday. I'm not really playing Adobe at this point in time. Let's take a quick peek. You know, Adobe had that impulse move breakout. It was weak on Friday. You're basically into gap window right now. So I expect some sellers. If you can hold above this previous pivot, 498.60, then you could actually start to work yourself up into this gap fill. I don't think it'll hit there today or the next day, but certainly on watch because Adobe's a household name. So if you get bullish pattern, I think you can play Adobe for more upside. Let's look at Microsoft since that one's firmed up quite nicely. A big V-shaped recovery off of that low. You have Apple still firm, holding strong. Really Google's the strong mega cap on the session. Tesla, what a reversal on Tesla. That's pretty shameful. That is pretty shameful on Tesla. You know, the fact that Tesla is up almost 4% and is giving back a fair lion's share of its gains is pretty shameful on Tesla's part. You know, it just shows you the relentless sell side pressure that Tesla is seeing. At the moment, still long Boeing, down on the trade, and short the Qs with a half position, 3/4 position on Boeing. So let's just see what the market can give us here. Qs are still trying to push up. They're back above its short-term 7-day moving average. Super impressive. Every time the market tries breaking down, they seem to just want to slap the buy button, the bid button on the Qs and push it right back up. So we did have that technical breakdown on Friday, and it's basically being negated today. Being negated off of more AI news, Google strength, Apple partnership. So definitely interesting. All right, Qs are ripping there. Next add level is above 440.80. 440.80, I will add to my QQQ short position. So 440.80. Boeing's also trying to firm up. That's good to see. So we got Google on watch. Again, Dixie was red. It's now turned green. You do have strength across the 10, 20, and 30 year. So long end yields are outperforming short end of the curve, which is why the Russell's actually selling off today. So you'd have a clear outperformance in the Qs and an underperformance in small caps. That's not a good sign, in my opinion, especially if you factor in regionals. You know, regionals right now are definitely struggling. across the board. Transports are weak. You have the majority of sectors red. The only green sectors are XLK, XLC, so your tech-based sectors, and XLY, Tesla and Amazon. So a lot of weakness in this market, a lot of weakness when you have the broad market red. It's telling us something, guys. Get ready to add to Boeing, guys. I am liking another add at this range. A little bit of an add in this range. I'll let you know if I take this fill. Qs are coming in a little bit. Google seeing some sell side. Bitcoin dumping really, really hard, guys. Really hard. MicroStrategy down 8.5%. 8.5% down. Wow. Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive. Qs are now coming in. 10-minute topping tail on watch. 10-minute topping tail on watch. Guys, I'm going to add to my Boeing here. I just added to my Boeing. 177.70. 177.70. So my average is sitting at 179.06. We are down on that trade. Qs were flat. Wow, Tesla's almost gone negative. Tesla's almost gone negative on the session. Yeah, nat gas is still holding its gains up 3.5%. Oil itself is actually still up about 0.5%. Qs right now outperforming everything up 1.4, SPY up 0.8. So NVDA, Apple, Google, SMCI, all carrying the charge. Crypto getting hit really hard on the downside. Yeah, FSR down 10.9. That might be a little bit of an interesting trade. I did see FSR make that big pump. Had a big drop in the pre-market, then a really big pump in the pre-market. Basically, FSR right back down to its pretty much its lows, but it did fill that technical gap. So this one's an interesting play. High risk, very, very high risk, but certainly an interesting play on the long side. Let's just see. Very speculative play. You filled that gap. You're trying to get below that gap as we speak. So FSR still super, super weak. Look at Canopy Growth. Our members just took about 10% profit off of CGC, and we still are riding the rest of the half higher. So nice risk management trade complete there. Dixie's still holding above. Still really, really firm at the moment. But these marijuana stocks are pumping, guys. Again, we have the majority of sectors red, guys. So there's a lot of weakness out there. So, I mean, at any point in time, if the Qs start being faded, this market could go to the downside in a pretty quick hurry with the majority of sectors red. Now, the opposite is true too. You know, obviously the market is super, super buoyant at the moment. It's very, very strong today. So you run into the scenario is that if you short the indices, what happens if the rest of the other sectors start firming up? So now it's key to continue to just watch how the yield market's going to be doing, how the dollar market's going to be doing. As long as the dollar remains firm, I don't anticipate other sectors to firm up. But there's certainly a potential that if the dollar falls, that could give a little bit of a bid to a lot of the other sectors. Marijuana stocks just flying. CGC absolutely ripping. Short QQQ at 440.13. 440.13. I'm already in. I think we actually dipped back down at least to try to test this 438.40 zone. So obviously your level's higher. Yours is up at 440.12, kind of at the top of this wick, just shy of that wick. We've already pierced that area. So Brinja Bear is actually short, I guess, at 440.12. Long BA as well now. Nice job, Paul. You have a better average than myself. And again, I think that BA is definitely into a swing tradable level. I mean, RSI oversold. You're into last time I checked on Friday, it was about a 2.5 standard deviation move. I think it's almost close to a 3 standard deviation move. So a big down move in Boeing. Obviously the press and negative headlines around Boeing, wheels falling off, doors ripping open, plane engines catching fire. You know, that's all recipe for fundamental, you know, the fundamentals are pointing lower and lower and lower. but that's typically when you want to buy and scalp. You know, this is still a company that isn't really going anywhere. Sure, they failed many of their last FAA tests, but they have a monopoly on the market. And when you have a 10-year wait list for aircrafts, it certainly puts you in a position to hold power of the market. So it seems that Boeing has definitely put profit and quantity over quality. You know, there's a lot of horrific headlines around Boeing. Trying to catch a bid here now. But these are the trades I do like to see. Boeing is trying to firm up as the Qs are falling down. So nice little potential sell side pressure coming into the Qs. We are in the money slightly. Nothing to rave about right now. I have 200 shares short the Qs right now. 200 shares short the Qs. And I have 330 shares long Boeing. Couple comments coming through. Tank QQQ. Yep, I think that there could be a big drop and then another pop to test high of day. You know, during the market, you have yields green, so that's a headwind. Oil green, that's a headwind. Nat gas green, that's a headwind. VIX red, so that's a tailwind for the market. And then the dollar green, which is a headwind. So 3 out of the 4 massive points are actually pointing to lower price in the market. It's just you have strong fundamental news across mega caps that are lifting things, broadly speaking. Tesla's trying to catch a little bit of a bid, but seeing a reversal all the way back from 170, just a pierce of 170, all the way down to a low of 166. So a very large range for Tesla, guys. A very, very large range for Tesla. We are seeing the Qs come down. I'm looking for this 438.60, guys, on the Qs. I think that's where we look for a potential cover on the Qs. But you did get that 10-minute topping tail, and you're getting follow through to the downside, guys. You're getting follow through to the downside. So we've already taken a monster trade on MSTR on the short side, banked tremendously off of the weakness in Bitcoin. Now we're taking a QQQ short and a Boeing long. Look at Boeing trying to firm up here. I think that this one could actually, believe it or not, potentially make a red to green reversal today. NVIDIA going up. Yeah, NVIDIA's filled its gap. It's still up 4%. So, I mean, complete strength in the tech sector, which is why it's tough shorting the Qs. But I do expect the Qs to dip a little bit and then have a potential continuation move higher. I'm actually seeing the VIX turn green here as well. So now you're running into a scenario where more headwinds are starting to appear in the market. More headwinds. We're watching that dollar still consolidating. Let's see the Russell 2000. So the IWM, look at that nasty reversal in the Russell, putting in a potential right shoulder formation, also an intraday potential bear flag. We'll watch that closely. Dixie is going for a new high of day, up 0.5%. So things are looking like they're trying to get faded here. Things are looking like they might get faded. Still long Boeing short the Qs. We're up slightly on the Qs, but I'm looking for more. Talk about SMCI, please. Robert wants to talk about SMCI. Just give me 1 second, Robert. Let's pull up. Boeing right back down to the lows. Damn, Boeing. SMCI gap up, being faded now. You know, this one I think is kind of just in a distributive phase. You tried breaking above this high pivot, but you really haven't confirmed on the daily chart. This is just in a tight distributive range, and I think that big players are gapping it up in hopes to chase more retail in and then selling into it, and then gapping it up a little lower, selling into it. So you really haven't confirmed the daily chart breakout above this previous wide range reversal. So this is all still technically bearish price action because it has had every opportunity to break out. Even on the weekly chart, you had that breakout, no confirmation yet. Daily chart, you had that breakout, no confirmation yet. So this one runs the risk of seeing lower price action just on a pure attempt at a breakout and possibly failing. Boeing right back down to the lows. Q's still consolidating, looking like they're trying to move higher. Dixie's trying to firm up here. So again, I think that Qs are still coming down, guys. So we are in the money on the Qs. We are in the money. Look at these falls on SMCI. I'm up about 126 bucks. 138 on the Qs. Come on. Keep falling, guys. Keep falling. Getting into a potential cover zone here, guys. All right, guys, I just covered my QQQ position 438.87, 438.87. Covered the Qs, guys. Covered my QQQ short position 438.87. That's a nice 87 cents, roughly 166 bucks to me. Still holding my Boeing long. I'm actually going to add to my Boeing down here again. I'm going to increase the position size. Another 80 shares I just got filled. My average is now 178.88. So holding a fairly decent sized chunk here in the Boeing trade. Still looking at the Dixie, trying to push higher. Canopy growth still a monster at the moment. Bitcoin's trying to firm up and catch a micro bid off this zone. Qs are actually starting to come down a little bit. We're seeing more red starting to appear on the screen, guys, again. Still have a lot of weakness across the broad market. Qs are coming in. So we've taken 2 for 2. We're riding a third trade here, Boeing, a long on Boeing. Members took a nice chunk off of Canopy growth. SMR, let's check SMR for Georgiana. Yeah, I mean 956. So you got out at 618. Wow. It just shows you, right? I mean, how things can keep squeezing even past points that we think, but definitely an extended chart. I mean, you're now trading into, I don't even know what the RSI is, but you're getting very lofty in this range. Very, very lofty in this range. You know, semiconductor bear ETF has firmed up as well. Qs are still trying. So we're still long Boeing, guys. Down on the trade just slightly at the moment. Just slightly at the moment. Some of the highest volume stocks, STI, SoundHound, Google, Tesla, GOEV, Apple, NVDA, NEO, SoFi, Jern, Wave D, crypto stocks. Come on, Boeing. Get your big butt up there. Get your big butt up there. So I have 410 shares long Boeing. 410 long Boeing. Dixie's still strong. FSR looks interesting here, guys. FSR for kind of a speculative long looks somewhat interesting to me. I'm just scrolling through my list to see if there's any other squeeze names on watch. Massive move down on LI Auto. Copper stock still remaining strong. Nat gas is slowly being faded. One candle at a time. Nat gas is slowly being faded. Our Boeing is trying to push up here, guys. Let's see if we can get Boeing to go green. Come on, Boeing. Not really seeing anything else at the moment that I like. I'm still scanning, seeing a lot of weakness across the majority of the sectors. The worst performing sector today is actually utilities, down 0.7. The best performing is communications with Google. Strong. Come on, Boeing. Take us to the promised land. You also have weakness in healthcare, real estate, staples, industrials, financials, energy. Really, it's materials, communications, tech, and consumer discretionary holding positive gains. Holding positive gains. Fisker looks interesting, guys. I think that we can potentially take a small little speculation long on FSR here, guys. I'm going to go long FSR as a very, very small speculative investment. I'll let you know when I get filled. All right, guys, I just went long FSR at 16 cents. 16 cents I got filled at. 16 cents. This is a very small position, high risk trade. You know, I go a lot lighter in names like these because they can drop with us. For instance, I only have, on this single trade, I only have 30,000 shares, which is equated to 4,800. You know, and I don't know if I'm going to add to this position yet. It's really going to see how the market firms up at this point in time. But we are long, and again, we don't need much of a big move. You know, I could even see this retesting this little bit of a consolidation period, the 1730 area, this consolidation here. But Fisker, we are long, and we are strong. Boeing, we're long. Took profits on an MSTR short, took profits on a QQQ short. So we're already trying to close the day with a 100% success rate. Again, this is a shortened day for me. I won't be here for the full day. Chris Maker went long UVIX. Be careful. Be careful. Qs are so strong that it could carry this market. Of course, there is resistance being tagged. You know, I do think that the market, this gap up can be faded to the downside, but just be careful. VIX isn't reacting the same way. And whenever you start seeing like this this mixed price action in the market where you have massive strength in the Qs, the S&P, but weakness in small caps, it makes it very tough. It makes it very, very tough to play the VIX. But Chris has been pretty spot on with his VIX calls as of late, and definitely there is money to be made. All right, FSR trying to move up here, guys. FSR, we're up 1.12%. Nothing crazy here. Nothing crazy, but it is trying to move up. Uber down 2.5%. So Uber's getting hit. Let's take a look at Uber. Still long Boeing, guys. Yeah, Uber getting hit here. I don't know if there's news or anything, or if it's just a pure technical sell-off since you got a couple closes below the 7-day. If Uber loses this gap window, then you're looking at gap fill. So that's not a healthy pullback on Uber. Obviously, the daily chart still has more time, but Uber really is lofty in this region. Believe it or not, I do think there's more upside, but losing the 7-week moving average could constitute a little bit more room for some downward price action on Uber. You can see the Q's hourly chart being faded, slowly being faded, 10-minute chart topping tail. So we are in a little bit of a distributive pattern here on the Q's. Boeing, we're still long. Fisker, we're still long. That one's looking like it wants to come in a bit. Bitcoin's still down at 67K. Oil's still holding firm. MSTR down 8.15%. AMD is actually negative and SMCI is negative, guys. So now you have two leading semiconductor components negative. So are we going to run into the are we going to see NVIDIA go negative? Are we going to see Tesla go negative? I mean, that could be a massive, massive decline in the Qs set to take place if those names remain negative. We could easily see the Qs fall more with additional weakness in those names. I do think it makes a likely scenario that Microsoft, since it was red, could go negative. Tesla's looking pretty bearish with that reversal at the moment. Couldn't hold the majority of its gains. We're still long Boeing, down on the trade, down about 250 bucks. Fisker, we're flat. So NVIDIA is now at 911.28, inside of a little bit of a hard candle down bar, potentially putting in a little bit of a micro bear flag. If it can get back above 913, then it could try to retest about 917. I've been trading for less than a month. Do you recommend holding SMCI till earnings? I bought at 1120 and would like to sell around 13. No. Robert, I don't like that trade. You know, obviously anything's possible. You could get a gap up on earnings, but I think that SMCI is in a bit of a distributive phase myself. From what I'm seeing, I think semiconductors as a whole are in a distributive phase. I mean, look at SMCI today. It was up over 5%. You know, has every rhyme or reason to hold its gains since the Qs are so strong, but it's actually lost its gains. So that's an issue for me. whenever stocks are super strong in the pre-market and then get absolutely faded, that's a bit of an issue for me, personally speaking. Microsoft going higher and higher. Yeah, Microsoft is up 0.68%. You're still inside of a wide range heavy volume reversal candle, still inside of a daily volume candle. Microsoft right now trying to test 420, putting in a potential flag pattern, a bull flag pattern. But keep in mind, this one was seeing sell side pressure in the pre-market, so there's always runs the risk that that same seller starts to come back. Dixie faded, so Qs are popping. Qs right back into our original short zone. So I am interested in shorting the Qs again, but I want to start my average a little bit higher. I'd rather start my position above 440 this time, above 440, and then we accumulate all the way up into this 441 range. So let's see if the Qs can push up above 440. And I may be interested in starting a position, guys. I'm watching a few different things here, and I'll decide, but I am interested in potentially starting another short position on the Qs. We already won first off. Boeing, still waiting on Boeing. Fisker's coming in hot. So down on Fisker. And this is why we go lighter share size, because things like this tend to happen. They try to push these little micro names up initially as if it's breaking out, and then they fade it. Boeing just still struggling down in this region. I still am holding my shares. Boeing's kind of one that, I might not even be. All right, Q's just tested 440. You can see that initial rejection. I did not get filled. I repeat, I was looking for a fill, but I did not get filled on the QQQ short. A little bit disappointing because that is rejecting there by 20 cents. Still has a chance to move higher. Let's see if we get another push. But a lot of strength in the market through the Qs and tech, but weakness still in small cap land. Although small caps are trying to bounce and firm up. The Russell might be a little bit of a short as well, the IWM. Let's take a look at that chart. That one actually is trying to firm up here. I'd prefer picking on the Qs just because they are a little bit more extended and there's more resistance in this zone than the small caps. The VIX just turned slightly red. UVXY now down 4.17. Boeing still trying to firm up. FSR still weak. Guys, this would be the spot to add to FSR. Excuse me. This would be the spot. All right, guys, I just started shorting the Qs. 440.07. Excuse me while I get some water. 440.07. I'm back in a QQQ short position. 440.07. This is a 1/4 entry. 1/4 entry. Boeing getting a nice bid. Boeing is getting a nice bid. We are trying to break out on Boeing. It's a little bit of a consolidation pattern. Potentially a little bit of a micro inverse head and shoulders unfolding, which upside should give us about a $1.50 move from this neckline, which would put us right back up to this previous high zone. So Boeing is trying to firm up at this point in time. I could actually see Boeing retesting all the way up to 181.30 today. So we're short the Qs, long FSR, long Boeing. Boeing we're now flat on. It's a pretty big position on the long side. I'm tempted to add to my FSR here, but again, I don't know. We're down about 3.7. We've made money off of this one over the last couple sessions quite nicely, but I'm just going to stay and hold my shares at the moment with what I currently have just to see how it reacts off of the support level. Obviously it is weak on the session right now. Seeing a lot of distribution in this range, but even holding some lotto shares in this range is probably a good risk to reward in my opinion. Obviously just understand that there's a lot of negative headlines with this FSR company about potentially being bankrupt, but then you have news from Nissan that they could be exploring buying, etc., and so forth. But A lot of weakness in this name, not a quality company based off of fundamentals or technicals right now. Microsoft going for a new high of day. Google fade a little bit. Meta curling up. NVDA curling back up. So this is where mega cap strength starts to try to prevail and lift the broad market. You are seeing small caps trying to firm up across the board. Next add level in my QQQ short position is right into this 440.80. 440.80 zone. That's where I'll add to my Qs. We're now green on Boeing. We're green on Boeing. Let's see if we can get more. Again, that's the crazy thing about this market is that Qs were so strong already in the pre-market Microsoft week, and then Microsoft turns green from down 0.7 to up almost 1%. That's why the Qs have actually pushed higher here. But at the same time, you did have some profits come out of Google, some profits come out of Tesla, and some profits came out of Amazon. So, I mean, while you had Microsoft pushing higher, you had Google coming in, Amazon coming in, Tesla coming in, and NVIDIA coming in. So it seemed that those profits didn't come out of the market entirely, the Qs. It seemed that they just rotated back into Microsoft. Hence why we're back at that double top. So even though different stocks saw distribution, Microsoft going higher, Google coming in, Amazon coming in, NVIDIA coming in, the Qs really didn't lose too much liquidity. It actually just seemed to rotate. So that's an important thing to note because it does suggest that, okay, if we didn't lose any net liquidity, if Google retests its highs and Microsoft stays firm and Tesla retests its highs, you could even push a lot higher on the Qs. Obviously, we're into a double top, and there's still a 10-minute topping tail on watch. But we just got to recognize that there was no real liquidity lost in the QQQ market off of that sell-off. It just rotated. What site do you recommend you use? I'm currently using Nordet because they automatically account for taxes. Are you talking about for trading, swing trading, long-term investing? What are you looking at, Robert? Just for trading purposes? I don't recommend anyone, but what I use, IBKR and Questrade, and I have access to RBC as well, RBC trading account. So I have 3 brokerages that I've traded. I know a lot of people use like Robinhood and things like that, but I think there's a little bit of a disadvantage using some of those names. But IBKR, they're pretty solid, been around for a long time. I've heard good things about Thinkorswim, TD Ameritrade. So I mean, all the brokerages are fairly competitive. It's just whether or not you have a preference on type of user face. I know IBKR does have some of the lowest fees. Personally speaking, I do like some of their interest on your cash held, so that's a nice bonus. Just 1 second, guys. So MicroStrategy is still down 5, coin down 0.8. Boeing, we're now green again, guys. Fisker coming into a little bit of a double bottom. I'm actually going to look to potentially add to my FSR trade. This is a high risk add. This will be the last time I add. I won't increase the position. I will not increase the position from here, but I just doubled down my Fisker position. Now I have 60,000 shares long. My average is sitting at 1560. 1560, guys. 0.156. 1560. My average is sitting with 60,000 shares. It's roughly a $9,000 position. So it is heavy for that name, but definitely lighter in comparison to other stocks. So right now we have a short on the Qs, a long on Boeing, and a long on FSR. Average on FSR 1560. Repeat, 1560. Boeing were flat, Qs were flat. I am seeing the dollar had a little bit of a fall there, but still trying to hold firm. Again, small caps are coming in a little bit more. So far in the session, we've had a successful trade on MicroStrategy, a couple thousand there. We've had a nice little short on the Qs, which we made money on. And we're long Fisker, long Boeing. eToro QQQ spread is around $1.30. Short Apple. Brina Bear is looking at a short on Apple. Yeah, this is an area of that you could short. You're inside of a little bit 10-minute reversal bar, so I have no qualms about it. I would just use 177.20 as your stop if you're shorting it here. So I would use that as your stop, but it is extended here, and you are into a little bit of a gap window resistance, so that's why you're getting rejected here. Apple trying to get above this gap window into gap fill. It is being rejected as we speak. So I have no issues with a short on Apple at this point. We are shorting the Qs. We are shorting the QQQ at the moment. Small position, yep. Brina Bear is in a small short on Apple. Meta's curling up. NVIDIA trying to curl up. Tesla is pushing right back to the highs of the session. So you have Tesla trying to firm up. I could definitely see NVIDIA getting faded here. I could see NVIDIA retesting around 900, the whole number, which is about a $12 fall from here. I could definitely see that. Just based off of what AMD and SMCI are doing, it seems that the semiconductor complex is not holding the same amount of strength that the Qs are holding. So the Qs are actually holding pretty much at that double top. And then when you look at the SOXS, the SOXS has actually had a nice bit off of the lows. You look at the SOXX, and that's fading. So SOXX well below its double top, where you look at the Qs kind of at that double top. So relative strength in the Qs, a little bit of relative weakness in these semis, despite them still outperforming. So just an interesting observation. We are seeing some sell side pressure in the semiconductor market. So just be aware of that and mindful. Just be aware and mindful. All right, so we're still short the Qs. Oil's coming in. Nat gas. Honestly, Nat gas is not looking too hot here. It could go negative today. Nat gas. You are hitting some 4-hour chart support. Same thing, some hourly chart support. But I mean, that gap up does not look the strongest. It looks like they're fading into it, just stair stepping it down, grabbing that liquidity on the long side and stair stepping it down. So just be cautious with Nat gas. Just be very, very cautious if you're long. I still think that there's a scenario Nat gas can actually go lower on the session. Tesla pushing right back up. So Tesla's going for a high of day. Microsoft near the high still. Bitcoin putting in a bear flag. I think MSTR has had a nice retrace. If it hits 1700, that's probably a good short entry. Again, on MSTR to fade back down to about 1600. So I think there's about a 100-point move that could occur in MSTR. Is this live? Yes, this is live. There's a slight latency delay, about 10 seconds, 5 to 10 seconds. Sometimes it's a little less, sometimes it's between that range. But this is live. All right, guys, let's just go through the strengths. So Apple, Microsoft holding key. Up 2.4 on Apple, up 3.5 on NVIDIA, up 1% on Microsoft. Microsoft was red in the pre-market, now gone green. AMD was green in the market, now gone red. SMCI was green in the pre-market, now down 2%. Tesla up 3.7, AVGO up 0.7, Bitcoin down 1.4, MSTR down 5. You have Google holding unbelievable strength, up 6.33% on the session, has pulled in from the highs just briefly. Amazon up 0.84%. You have oil up 0.5%. Energy stocks are mixed today because the sector is showing a little bit of profit, taking down about 0.5% on the session. Netflix up strong. Marijuana stocks are seeing a nice firm bid. MSOS, MJ, Canopy Growth absolutely ripping. Our members took about a 10% win today on Canopy Growth, and we're riding the rest of the position with an in-the-money stop loss. So a beautiful, beautiful thing to see in the morning session. Beautiful, beautiful thing to see in the morning session that a lot of our positions are starting to work out to the upside. Again, I'm only going to stay on here till about 11 o'clock, and then that's another 40 minutes. Hopefully we can close some of these trades, but I do have a couple other things to take care of today, so we are staying on till roughly about 11. But we are long Boeing, long FSR, short the Qs. We've already made money on 2 winning trades, and we're looking to potentially close the rest of these 3 on the green side. Again, guys, I'm seeing the yield slightly green, dollar flat. So, the dollar right now is slowly being faded, which is why I think the indices are still remaining buoyant and firm. What I'm seeing here is, though, you have Bitcoin showing some weakness today, putting in a little bit of a bear flag intraday. Does appear it wants to go lower. Keep in mind, Bitcoin did have that dump on the weekend, and it got gobbled right back up. Now you're seeing NVIDIA potentially triggering a lowercase h pattern. Boeing's moving up nicely. Take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA actually is showing some signs of distribution. That's not a healthy, that's a lowercase h pattern or a little bit of a bear flag that if you lose this low, you can now calculate a downside target of roughly about 898, so call it 900. So NVIDIA definitely seeing a little bit of distribution in this range. Boeing, we're now green. Boeing, we are green. FSR is trying to firm up. I think FSR is in this range where you could get a headline and it could just spike it. These bankruptcy headlines are always notorious for making these massive pops and reversals. Obviously, it did have that huge spike up on the back of Nissan here. That was a huge spike, which we caught, and we're basically now being able to accumulate this position at a much lower average than we originally had, and anticipating a potential either short covering in this range or another news-based pop. But super speculative investment. I do not recommend anyone going in with real size. NVIDIA trying to break down, triggering a bear flag lowercase h pattern. Google still holding firm. So you're seeing some weakness now creeping into the picture, guys. Some weakness is creeping into the picture, and it's good to see that Boeing is still remaining firm and holding up on the session. So I love seeing that. I love seeing when the Qs start to fall and the stocks that were in the long side continue to move up. Again, the Russell's still negative. Qs are outperforming everything across the board. Qs are outperforming everything. Come on, Boeing. Again, Boeing, would not shock me if Boeing tried to make a red to green reversal, which would put it up to 182.57-ish, around there. Upside target in the short term is this 179.90, maybe a pierce of 180. I think that's feasible. Nice little potential breakout here with the bull flag consolidation pattern. So Boeing is looking strong, guys. Boeing is looking strong. Just got an alarm on that gas falling like a stone. Yeah, it is falling like a stone. It absolutely is falling like a stone. So this is why I've avoided natural gas. It's in a little bit of a distribution range and showing bearish signals to me. The fact that we were gapped up tremendously and now they're just absolutely grabbing that liquidity and fading it. If nat gas flushes into this gap fill, I'm interested in a long. Look at Boeing, guys. Nice trade on Boeing. Beautiful trade on Boeing so far. But again, keep nat gas on watch, because if it flushes into this 175 zone today, which it could happen, the sell side pressure could happen, then I'm interested in a long trade. You will have some additional support right at this range, this trend line. So I'm watching nat gas closely because I do like that for a long trade if we flush into this 175, 176 region. So we'll keep it on watch. We'll just keep it on watch for now. As of now, it's not into that range. I'll put an actual alert so that we can all catch that trade if it flushes in there. So I'll have that alert ready. Look at the Boeing move, guys. We're now at 0.35%. Again, I have 410 shares on the long side, and that one is moving higher really, really nicely. I'm going to add to my QQQ short, guys. I'm going to add to my QQQ short. Dollars fading. All right, guys, I'm taking profits on Boeing here. I just took profits on BA. Boom. Beautiful little exit there on BA. Beautiful exit at the highs. I still think it has more room, but $1.21 per share, $1.30 per share, roughly 305. And I did just add to my QQQ short position, guys. I did just add to my QQQ short position. My average is now 440.54. 440.54. So it's a second entry on the QQQ short, and we took profits on Boeing, still riding this FSR. Let's look at NVIDIA and some of the mega caps here. So we're out of Boeing for another win. That's our third. Look at FSR go, guys. Look at FSR. So remember, we doubled that position. Look at the squeeze. We could see a big squeeze coming into FSR. Come on, FSR, get pumping. Oh, right, rejected. Come on, make another attempt. Make another attempt. Make another attempt at moving. I know you want to. Come on, squeeze this name. Seeing a lot of bullish accumulation in this range. Qs are at some really heavy resistance, but still trying to push. Qs are into some heavy resistance here, but still trying to push. Pretty miraculous price action. Pretty miraculous price action. NVIDIA trying to catch a bid. I still think NVIDIA could retest 900, guys. I still think NVIDIA could retest 900. You know, I am seeing even this GME is making a nice little reversal, guys. I think this GME is a little bit of a long trade, guys. I'm going to try to take a stab at this GME trade on the long side. High risk as well. But I think we could see a scenario where small caps catch a little bit of the money flow like the Qs. If Qs see a little pullback, I think that money might flow into small caps. I'll let you know if I take the trade. I'm not in yet. I'm not in yet on GME. I'm watching it closely. I want to see how the Qs react here. I just want to see how small caps react here. Small caps are putting in some nice potential consolidation to move higher. Bitcoin appears to be coming in a little bit more. MSCR under pressure. Next ad level on the Qs, guys. You can see the resistance trend line we're into. It's a pretty big support. All right, guys, so we're seeing the QQQ fade a little bit here. Russell's actually trying to push up slightly. We are in the money on our QQQ, waiting on FSR long and tried having a breakout there above this key trend line. It is seeing some signs of accumulation. There's my husky in the background saying hello to all of you. We've already taken profits on quite a few trades. We're seeing crypto under a significant amount of pressure. MicroStrategy was our big win again. I even informed all my Twitter subscribers that I was swinging a MicroStrategy over the weekend. That proved out to be great. Told my members to fade MicroStrategy in the pre-market. That worked out exceptionally well. You're seeing crypto or marijuana stocks absolutely catching a bid. That was another win that we took today. So it's been a really good flow for us in the market. We had a huge win on Boeing. Nice original short on the Qs. I am still seeing some distribution across the check. Yeah, I did have my mic muted there. We're on a little bit of a hunt for our kitten. Thought she ran outside, but she was just hiding under a bed. So it was a little bit of stress, but we found her, so all's good there. So we're back in the swing of things here. We're just riding our QQQ short. I am seeing the Dixie. So the dollar index is trying to firm up and push and break out of this flag pattern. So look at that. So this is what could push the indices down across the board, is this dollar market firming up. Right now, I'm not really seeing too much accumulation in the VIX. I mean, UVXY, if we take a look at that, at the dead lows, right? So VIX is just not acting well, in this big range of choppiness, up, down, all around. But right now, VIX is just not performing at this point in time. There is a scenario where you're at support now on the VIX, so it could firm up here. So just keep that on watch. There is a little bit of a trade potential unfolding in the UVXY. You could try to take a stab at it at this range and use your stop loss, the 685 stop loss low. So that's certainly a potential that could unfold. So we'll watch it closely to see if it gets thrown. I'm actually going to take a long here, 689 on the VIX, guys. I'm going to take a stab at it. 689 long at the VIX here. And then I will use my stop loss as this little wick low. So we're short the Qs, long UVXY, and long FSR. Already took profits on Boeing. Let's see what action we can get. And one of the reasons I'm doing this is because we've actually had the dollar trying to break higher here. Yields are also trying to press higher simultaneously. Oil's still green, so you have the majority of the headwinds. I am seeing some distribution in the semiconductors, which makes me think that, okay, semis often lead, so we could see the QQQ market sell off a little bit if semis really start to give it up. Tesla at the highs, testing 172. What an epic reversal on Tesla. Goes from a big mega cap 10-minute bar reversal to a huge rip and rally hourly reversal on the chart. Massive move in Tesla back to the high side. Boeing really hasn't moved higher than that sell side area that we took profits. Boeing hasn't moved higher. FSR still just putting in this sideways pattern. Looking, it's just trading in a world of its own at the moment. It's currently down 10.65%, really seeing the weakness in the Russell, kind of following the Russell's lead. VIX moving down here. Qs are trying to push up. How many shares on the UVXY? Just a starter position, 2,500. 2,500 shares on the UVXY. Hey, Michael. How you doing? You've seen some energy stocks like RIG get faded slightly from the highs. XOM still green, up 0.83% and pushing. XOM is actually very extended in this region. There is a short trade on watch. We were able to scalp it short on Friday. I would like to see it potentially push higher, make a new high. Looking for another little bit of a bearish divergence on XOM, but it's tough right now. But I am looking at a short trade on XOM. It is into a decent resistance zone as we speak, but I'm looking for a move at 112.30 or a pierce of the new high, and that gets me interested in maybe a short on XOM. So right now we're short the Qs, long FSR, long UVXY. Canopy growth still holding firm. You've had a few more sectors try to firm up here. Materials catching another bid, but really still weakness across the majority of the sectors. You have the Dow Transport's also negative, but the industrial's green. Ready for another week? That's awesome, Michael. That's awesome. Microsoft's actually starting to fall here, guys. Microsoft is seeing a little bit of sell side pressure. A little bit of sell side pressure. Qs are trying to get above that 439.14. You have the 7-day moving average on the Qs sloping down, but we're technically above it. So that slope could get negated today. So we're watching things closely. Apple starting to come in just a tad. Google, potential lower high, but we'll see. You know, Tesla had a big reversal, but it started to push back up. Meta's at a little bit of a double top range. We'll see if that can break higher. NVIDIA's pulled off from the highs quite substantially. What I'm noticing here is the leading stock like NVIDIA and the semis, you know, the Qs are still way at the highs, and then you look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA has faded from its highs, well off the highs, so diverging from the Qs just a little bit. Even though it's still strong today, diverging. Look at AMD making a bullish reversal back to the high side, now at 0.91%. Very interesting on AMD. AMD, you know, you could be potentially forming a little inverse head and shoulders. Obviously, we do have that NVIDIA conference this week. Does anyone know when that NVIDIA conference is? Is that tomorrow or is that Wednesday? Is it on the same day as FOMC? FOMC is Wednesday. I'll have to double check that, but that NVIDIA conference, I can't recall if it's tomorrow or if it's on Wednesday. I know it's this week, though. I know it is this week. Qs are trying to push right back up. See the small caps here. Small caps still weak, but trying to also firm up. Small caps are trying to turn a little bit positive here. So the day is trying to have a little bit of a trend day, guys, to the upside. It is trying to form a small trend day to the upside in the Qs and the S&P. If the Russell can turn green, there might be a little bit of a trend day. The only thing that's kind of making me skeptical is the fact that the trend in the dollar is actually also looking to trend up. So dollar's breaking this big range of consolidation from last week. You know, Thursday, we had this big consolidation range from this Thursday high pivot, and now we're trying to break that. So that's a little bit of a bullish breakout that is occurring in the Dixie 10-minute. The question is, can it hold? If it holds and sticks, you know, I remain a bit skeptical on this market for trending higher because you have a nice bull flag consolidation on the hourly chart. It is trying to break out. You have an inverted head and shoulders on the hourly chart. Neckline is there. That's broken out with clear conviction, which suggests an upside move on the Dixie all the way up to about this 104 area, 103.90. So that could hit even today, believe it or not. The consolidation is there. It's just right now you have the markets firm and strong, holding up really well. So I'm watching that on my other chart. Definitely keep the Dixie on watch because typically small caps don't act well around the Dixie. But they are. IWM just turned green, guys. The Russell 2000 just turned green. Go figure. So this is why we're still in our QQQ short, still holding the Dixie strength at the moment. Again, I'm only going to stay with you guys till about 11 a.m. I'll keep the stream going for a little bit, but I have a couple things to do. Preparing for another Airbnb booking. Still holding short the Qs, long the VIX, and long FSR. Repeat, long FSR. How's the volume on the hourly chart of FSR? Pretty decent off the initial open, kind of flat now. Again, we're holding an average on the Qs, 440.54. It's a half position. Half position. I'm about 170 shares short the Qs at the moment. Half position. It's common sense is saying now that Tesla regained these levels on a minor news, it's back into these previous channel levels. What do you think of validity to short longs for swings? You know, I still think Tesla goes lower. Sorry guys, that's my cat knocking over things. Just knocked over my water bottle. So in terms of Tesla, Tesla's a tricky one. Obviously, Tesla's still oversold compared to your peers. It's still underperforming the S&P 500 stocks. I don't know if it's the worst performing stock after today's rally, but as of Friday, it was the worst performing S&P 500 stock. So that makes it a potential candidate for some capital rotation. If you see weakness start to creep into the semis, you know, arguably Tesla could catch a bid. With this little reversal in Tesla, Tesla could trade all the way up to about 179. However, it still trades with the market pretty substantially. So that being said, if the Qs start to weaken, Tesla's not going to be immune from market rollover. It could go lower. Just because it's oversold and looks like a little bit of a better risk-reward entry, it doesn't mean it can't go lower. So I still remain cautious on Tesla. It is still in a downtrend, still putting in lower lows, lower highs at the moment. And when you factor in how strong the Qs have been and how strong the S&P has been, Tesla's definitely underperformed. Now, again, the upside target I think we could press for. I think the shortable level comes in that 179 range. I don't really feel comfortable shorting it here, although I do think that at least 150 to 140 target, downside target, will be fulfilled in, say, the next 1 to 3 months on Tesla. But I mean, I have no problems if you want to try taking a little bit of a high-risk long trade idea on Tesla. That's certainly a potential that could unfold. But just recognize that it's still putting in a little bit of a downtrend in the grand picture. S&P up 1, Qs are up 1.5, Russell slightly green, slightly negative. Google running into some near-term resistance. NVDA is trying to curl up. The VIX were flat. QQQ slightly down by about 4 cents. Sorry, 34 cents. Half position though. Half position in the Qs. Where I'd add to the Qs again is just looking here on my daily chart. Just give me 1 second. Four-hour chart, daily chart. I'd add to the Qs around 441.42. 441.42 is where I'd add to my next short entry. VIX were now green, starting to get a little bit of an uptick. Yeah, Tom's saying strange price action FSR, getting ready for a move, potentially. You know, it's a weak stock. Weak stock. I don't think there's anything bullish about FSR at the moment. The only thing that we could have is just a complete dead cat bounce. You know, I think that's what we're really looking for here is a dead cat bounce, which could lead to a little bit of a mini short squeeze. Obviously, it's an extremely high short interest name. So I'm just looking for a little bit of a dead cat bounce. You know, again, markets don't act irrational. For some reason, our market participants love buying these potentially companies that are going under. You know, often they do get these big liquidity plans that push it higher. We've seen it across many different names across our market cycle. Now you have the Qs potentially targeting a little bit of a head and shoulders on the 1 minute. You know, this is very micro analysis. Just understand that. But Qs are trying to break down here just a little bit. Obviously, if you get above the neckline, it negates it, which you can see it's trying here. But potentially a little bit of a move down to 439.80 is in store for the Qs. AMD turned green. SMCI is still down 1.5. Tesla's outperforming everything today. It's common sense. I've kept some Tesla from the day trades earlier, but sold at 171-ish. Feels like sell the news and re-enter a little later. Yeah, that's a smart plan. That's a smart plan. Ranger Bear looking at Abercrombie and Fitch, ANF. Let's look at Abercrombie and Fitch. Wow, this thing's back to 130. Jesus. So, I mean, I remember shorting with members at this 126. We wrote it down to 116 for just over $10 gain per share. Now it's pushing back up. Yeah, 131 is looking interesting. I do have that trend line at 131.66, which was this previous gap fill. You can see you had a wick bounce off that area. So it is looking interesting. The only caution here is look at this bull flag. Right off of that EMA, that hourly EMA 113. So, I mean, if we just do a measured move of this pattern from that low to this high, this could push all the way back up to 138. I would feel more comfortable shorting it as a day trade in this 132. That's your 618 full measured move. So I would feel a little bit more comfortable shorting it there. This one is also a small cap that has the ability to squeeze beyond belief. And typically when you get that first pullback from an all-time high RSI, which is what we did here, let me just erase this. Typically when you get that first pullback off of an all-time high RSI, all-time high price action, you often get a bid that takes you to minimum back to double top, if not new all-time highs. FSR breaking down, Qs are also breaking down here, guys. So just be careful with Abercrombie. That 131 could work, but it's not something I'm going to take yet. I would wait for a little bit higher, 132.20 as a day trade short. So FSR is breaking down a little bit, down about 2.5%. Unfortunately, Qs are coming in. UVXY were green. So Qs have triggered that little mini head and shoulders, just a mini one. It's nothing crazy. There is a channel that we could be chopping in today, really from that high. It could just be chopping in this little channel today. So let's watch it closely. Dixie hasn't broken out yet. Trying, but the Dixie has not broken out yet. You're welcome, Ranger Bear. Bitcoin still selling off. MSTR now down 7.5%. Coin down 1%. So crypto stocks are trying to hold firm because the Qs and the S&P is still staying strong. Canopy Growth, new high of day. Members are now up about 16% on the swing trade. We already pulled a nice chunk of profits earlier. So it's good to see that we are in the driver's seat with those marijuana trades. Nice job, members, if you're able to take that with us. That was a nice little win this morning, and we're riding the rest of the position higher because these names have the ability to make rather outsized moves. You could even see Canopy Growth up today about 40%, 50%. That would not shock me. I could easily see CGC trying to push for about the $4.30. Actually, the $4.20 level, no pun intended, looks kind of intriguing on Canopy Growth. Bitcoin's still selling off. So we're in the money on the last 2 out of the last 3 trades. FSR taking us down a little bit, but UVXY and Qs are lifting us. So nice little bit of performance in these names. Apple pulled in from the high. Meta's still curling up. Tesla's still holding firm. Microsoft appears to be coming down a little bit. Just need Fisker to firm up. Nat Gas still just bleeding lower. MJ stocks are smoking. Yes, sir, they are. That's why we've been accumulating Canopy Growth. We did 2 entries, one at 357 with members, and then the other one at 297. Our average on our CGC trade is now deep in the money. Deep in the money. So our average is sitting at 324 on Canopy Growth. So we're up about 17% with members. We already took the first chunk of profits and riding the second half. Look at this sell on Bitcoin, guys. It still wants to go lower. BTC, there might be a little bit of a day trade bounce, guys, on Bitcoin. So I'm looking at BITO. That's the long Bitcoin ETF. But it's not there yet, you know, not there yet. Could be shaping up a little bit of a head and shoulders pattern on Bitcoin. All right, you have the scenario here where you form this nasty little sell-off, left shoulder head. Could be forming a right shoulder. So I'm watching Bitcoin closely because that one's obviously a very, very important asset to the market, especially with the halving approaching, especially with the semiconductors, how reliant it is on semis. But keep BITO open. That's the long ETF. BITI is the short. BITO is the long. But I am potentially interested in grabbing a little bit of BITO. If we hit this little bit of a neckline, you can see that there is 4-hour chart support at this EMA 113. But I'm going to watch that on my other screen. I'll watch for a move into that zone. But you are below your daily 20 moving average again on Bitcoin. So not a healthy sign for Bitcoin. Definitely not a healthy sign right now. Crypto stocks are going through quite a bit of distribution at the moment. So we'll keep BTC on watch. Watching the VIX as well. Nat gas still going lower, guys. Just what a shame on Nat gas. What a shame. I know there's a lot of people stuck in longs on that. BITO, great. Yep. Keep it on watch. So I mean, the level on BITO. Let's just quickly see here. If Bitcoin falls another 2% or so, let's see where that EMA 113 is. So that's about one. Aggressive traders will buy this EMA around 66K. I'm going to wait a little bit more conservative around 65.3, personally speaking, but that's roughly a 2% fall. So on BITO, which does move in pretty similar correlation to NatGas, it's actually a really good ETF. Should put us basically around 29.85. It's looking like, but again, always use the underlying assets. So it's just a kind of a target where I'm interested in, but I'm always going to make my decision based off of what Bitcoin is doing. So just recognize that. So there's a potential scalp on the long side for Bitcoin. Obviously, some people can also use crypto stocks like Coin, MicroStrategy, Mara. Today you do have MicroStrategy underperforming, but Mara is positive. So I mean, if Bitcoin is expected to bounce off this level, Mara will likely catch a bid. MSTR will also catch a bid. You know, MSTR is trying to put in some higher lows, but also could be a little bit of a bearish pattern. Still seeing the VIX push up, nat gas selling. How's gold doing today? Gold slightly green, silver slightly red. So again, the Russell 2000 has firmed up. And what's interesting is we're also still seeing the Dixie trying to break out again. It got rejected on that 10-minute topping tail. Now it's trying to break out. So I think the Russell could be faded here. I'm going to look at some puts on the Russell, guys. I'm going to take 202 0 DTE put on the Russell, guys. 202 0 DTE put on the Russell. A 202 0 DTE put on the Russell. $202 0 DTE put. I'll just put. So we're riding an FSR long, UVXY long, QQQ short in the money on Qs, slightly down on FSR, and we're now riding a 2020 DT put on the Russell. It's not that high risk of a trade on the Russell. If we get the money, that would roughly be about just under 12%. Actually, let me just adjust that. That's incorrect. Let me see here. The date is wrong. That's what it was. Sorry. Looking at the wrong con there. That's more like it. There's 34 cents. 34 cents per con. Yeah, that's more like it. Sorry. So if those 202 puts get in the money on the Russell, that's roughly about a 50% win on the trade. That seems more like it. Qs are pushing right back up. Dollar's still trying to break out. Now the Qs are potentially forming a little bit of a bigger head and shoulders pattern that we got to watch out for. This could be a right shoulder forming. So your new neckline is right around here. That's only if we trigger, right? Only if we trigger the neckline, we have a new downside target of roughly about 439.64. Again, we have triggered one target already, so I'm just going to put these targets in white. We're going to use the dotted white line as targets. And we already have one downside target, which is triggered, which is around this 439.80 level. So we're now writing potentially two targets here, target 1 and target 2. Let's see if Q's. Target 1 is on watch because it has triggered. Target 2 hasn't triggered yet. Target 2 only triggers if we get a close below this neckline. Russell's coming in just a tad. VIX were in the green. NVDA curling down, guys. Meta's still strong, but seeing a little bit of sell side pressure at the moment. Google's still at the highs, up quite substantially on the session. Nat gas is only up 1.25%, so it is showing some signs of distribution and weakness in nat gas. Not what you want to see. Apple's still remaining firm, but seeing some sellers. Honestly, NVIDIA could go negative today. That would shock, I think, everyone. We're seeing definitely ahead of that conference. Did anyone find out when that NVIDIA conference is? I'll just actually look it up here. Google NVIDIA conference. Events. Hey, Mike. Just to let you know, Mike, we're in a Russell 2020 DT put, taken right up to this 202.73. We're in a QQQ short at 440.54 in the money, riding an FSR long, and then we have a UVXY long at 689. Qs are triggering another little head and shoulders here, guys. So again, we are looking to be seeing some more sell side pressure. That's good to see. Good to see. Again, we are long and strong, we're short the Qs. We're long this FSR, and we're short the Russell with some puts. March 19th, so it is tomorrow. It is tomorrow, NVIDIA. So, I mean, this would be kind of an event where people are looking to trim their positions off of this gap up before the event. I think there's going to be a lot of people piling in, trying to chase the event higher. Cat moving higher. Kitty cat. Purr. Let's look at cat. So, yeah, I mean, cat's firmed up with the industrial side there. Industrials have actually turned green now on the session. But a nice new all-time high on cat. Really breaking above all these resistance. So now, since we're above these key resistance points, we really got to look for some sort of a steep trend line or channel to see where the next technical resistance is. And I mean, the only thing that I'm seeing is really this channel now. You can see that there's likely going to be some more upside to about 360, 362. So that's kind of your next resistance on cap. Tough name to short. An absolute monster. Absolute monster. Yeah, thanks, man. I messed around with some options of my own and got owned. Just got to stick to your calls. I don't have enough to put into stock trades right now. Yeah, that's fair. Options are a tough game. I don't even like to do them much. I've really peeled back my options plays for swing trades. I don't really do too many options in over swing trades. I do them more just day trades, zero DTs, trying to use the market volatility intraday. But it's because, you take an options play and then look what happens. The markets had a bearish breakdown Friday, and then look at today, right? You gap up on the Qs, just soaring and roaring. Even on the SPY, a monster gap up, and then your position is just underwater against you, right? So they love to do this game where they have big technical breakdowns, people get all bared up, and then they just absolutely face ripper of a rally the next day. So, I mean, options are tough. Options are tough, especially when you have that time factor against you. Very, very difficult. Very difficult. Believe it or not, 95% of people lose in the options market. So, is that good odds? A lot of people don't make money in options. I personally make more money in just common shares. I find that much, much easier because options can be, heavily manipulated based off of where the crowd is positioned on any given day. QQQ coming in hot, guys. QQQ coming in hot. We are in the driver's seat on that QQQ trade. Target 1 has been fulfilled. Target 1, there will be some support here, but target 2 is still down here at 439.83. So target 1 was just hit. That's your first head and shoulders here. Target, we can retrace now before we take the next leg lower, but we are still seeing more downside. Russell working out well. VIX isn't really moving. Dollar's still just stuck in this range. Come on, one more sell. I think we get another flush on the Qs down to this low of this channel. Whereas you have a little bit more support. So it's been a nice day, guys. I'm still watching Bitcoin for a long, guys. Potential 5-minute head and shoulders on Microsoft. BITO great. Boyle stuck in very badly. Ooh, I'm sorry, Ram. I'm sorry. It's always tough being in a levered play when it's going against you. It makes it that much more difficult. I've been there. We've all been there. Now it's just a matter of, can you maneuver your position? Can you work it to a degree where you're going to get a bounce to get you, either break even? Sometimes the best traders can manage their positions just to get to break even. It's not even a matter of breaking and making a profit. Sometimes, can you work your average to mitigate the losses? Can you turn, say, a 10% loss into a 6, or a 10% loss into a 5? Or can you turn a 5% loss into a break even and then cut it and reassess? So it's not always about making money. Good traders will always try to help mitigate their downside risk, right? It's about capital preservation. So we all take losing trades. That's a part of the business. Anyone that says there doesn't is just lying through their teeth. Unless you're Nancy Pelosi, maybe she's the exception. But no, even she takes losses. But it's a matter of just trying to mitigate your downside. That's all I'm saying. Big bounce in the Qs, guys. Really big bounce in the Qs. Retesting the neckline as we speak. FSR coming in, looking exceptionally weak. This one does not look like it wants to firm up at all. That's typically when it does firm up. Canopy growths turn red. More sectors turning green. So now you've had industrials, financials all turn green again. Materials are ripping, communications. So it does seem that there's a potential for the strength in the NASDAQ and S&P to lift the entire broad market. It is appearing that. Now you still have bullish consolidation on the Dixie. Dixie's still in a little bit of an uptrend today. It is trying to press higher and break out of this consolidation range from Thursday, but it has not been able to do so just quite yet. Nat gas is almost at that key support line that I'm looking at. There is a potential long on nat gas that I'm eyeing. It's kind of correlating with the gap fill. VIX is still seeing some momentum. Qs are getting some slight rejection off this little neckline. We'll remove that one. So again, still means target 2 down here is intact. Target 2 is still intact. Staying with you a little bit longer here, guys, but I am probably going to wrap it up soon. Tesla's still just surging higher and higher. So you're seeing a great underlying bid coming into Tesla. That could help Amazon, obviously the Qs. But you're seeing a little bit of rotation back out of the semis today. Qs are actually still near their highs. Semis have pulled in quite substantially. Still have SMCI down 4. AMD was green up by 1%. And now it's red again. So I still think that there's a scenario where NVIDIA could actually go negative today. I still think there's a scenario. And if NVIDIA goes negative, what does that do to the Qs? It likely pushes it lower. Qs are still being faded a little bit, guys. Qs are still being faded. Still riding this QQQ short position, Russell puts, and a UVXY long. So QQQ is working out nicely, guys. Again, it's a half position. I have 170 shares short to Qs off this 440.54 level. Looking for this 202 put to go in the money on the Russell, which would give us about a 50% win. So again, I will close the Russell put as soon as it gets in the money. If it gets in the money, I will be taking profits. You can see Russell is trying to break this little bit of a channel to the downside. Pivot to pivot, break down here. See what type of consolidation we get. Dixie's coming in a little bit. NVIDIA's going for new lows, guys. Nat gas may stop hunt Friday's lows. Yep. Could potentially, definitely. New lows there. Look at the Qs breaking down, guys. Look at the Qs. Still have a target down here. Look at the Q sell-off, guys. This is a nice little sell. Beautiful, beautiful sell. Beautiful sell, guys. Beautiful sell. All right, guys, I just covered my Qs there. I covered my Qs, 439.55. Beautiful little trade, guys. All out. Again, you all knew I was waiting for this parallel channel. That's your support. Still have a downside target of 439.37, so we could easily push lower, but covered the Qs right at that 439.55. Nice winning trade. Yet again, that's the second win on the Qs. So we're now sitting. We've taken already 3 wins. A win on Boeing, 2 wins on the Qs, a win on MicroStrategy. So that's 4 wins. We're looking at a 5th here on Fisker, and then our Russell put is nicely in the money. NVIDIA, yep, going lower. It's almost, again, I said NVIDIA could go negative today, guys. Just based off of, remember when I said that the Qs were at their double top, and then I was showing you the semiconductor relative weakness. So, I mean, even though the semis were strong, the semis were basically getting faded while the Qs were all the way at their double top. So it showed that there was strength in the Qs because of Microsoft, Google, Apple, but then it showed weakness in semis. So You saw SMCI down, AMD down, and look at this weakness, right? Look at the weakness creeping back in. Our 202 put is almost in the money, so it's been a nice day again. Another nice day to open up the week. A really strong day to open up the week. Still riding that UVXY, guys, in this Russell put. Let's look at UVXY. I'll pull it up here. So that one's still trying to firm up just a bit. We're along at 689. MSTR very heavy. Yes, it is. It's now at 1600. So a nice another downward move in MSTR. And we are actually short with members MSTR. We're already up about 6% on that trade. And we already took monster profits on the day trade side. So beautiful trade on MicroStrategy. It is helping us grow our accounts today, guys. It is helping us grow. Boeing still acting well. Semiconductor bear ETF, believe it or not, looks to be going positive. Just take a look at this NVIDIA torrential downpour at the moment. Again, NVIDIA at gap fill. A lot of people are going to be hunting for this gap to go long. Still watching Bitcoin. I think the better level risk to reward basis on NVIDIA, believe it or not, is probably going to be around this vicinity here. So I am interested in a long on NVIDIA, but I want to see it pierce the gap. Potentially around 876, we can go long NVDA. 202 puts are coming in the money, guys. We are absolutely banking here. Guys. Come on. Final 13 cents. Come on, IWM. Get down there. So keep NVIDIA on watch, guys. I do like it for a long. If we flush, as long as we don't get any sort of bearish consolidation, if we flush right into this 875, I'm going to be going long NVIDIA. Just for a day trade scalp. Adobe, do you still want to stay away from it? It's flying. Yeah, I do. You know, if you're still holding from Friday, we had an unbelievable entry. You're in the driver's seat, but I still want to stay away. UVXY, can I still get in for a long or swing trade? I don't have any positions. Yep, I still think you can. You know, we're along at 689 there, Ram. Off of the day trade. 689. So we're only up about, you know, a couple pennies there. But it is showing some signs of accumulation. I think at a swing trade, I mean, you're at a really, really good level as well. Lots of accumulation occurring in volatility. You're seeing an underlying bid for sure. Definitely. All right, guys, we're up about 43%, 48%. Come on, give us in the money. Russell. Come on, get to 202. Well, my 50%. I'm going to secure these puts, guys, right away. As soon as we flush to 202, I will be trimming my profit. I'm going to close the full position. 48. Come on, get us 50%. Come on. Oh, damn. They're trying to bounce it right before. Come on. One more little flush. All right, guys, I'm closing the Russell here. I'm just going to pare back my profits. I just closed those puts for about a 46% gain. 46% gain. Just close those puts. So I'm out of the Russells. I do think they're going to hit the low here, but I just want to pare back some profits. Let's look at the UVXY there, and we'll put NVIDIA chart up. Look at NVIDIA bouncing. We'll actually watch the Qs since it's the leading indice today. But definitely the Qs are under a little bit of pressure. All right, guys, I'm going to step away from a bit. I have a couple things to take care of. It's been a stellar morning. Still holding my UVXY. If anything changes, I'll jump back on the mic and be sure to let you know. But we've taken monster win on the Qs twice. We took a Boeing long. We won on that trade. We took a IWM put option, won on that trade. We took profits with members on Canopy Growth. So it's been a nice morning so far, guys. So just take it slow for the rest of the day. Remember, this is FOMC week, as well as a big NVIDIA press conference. So there's certainly a lot of potential distribution and market volatility that could unfold. But on that note, thank you all for tuning in, and I will just stay off the mic for a little bit And if anything changes with regard to the positions, I will hop back on and be sure to tell you. So at the moment, still holding a VIX at 689. Not going to add to that position. Stop loss is the low of day 685. 3-minute close or a hard wick into that, I will stop out. FSR still holding long at 1560. Again, this one is a high risk lotto play. May even swing this one overnight or for the next week due to this depressed level. On that note, I still think the Qs could see more downside just based off of the selling we're seeing in the semis, the selling we're seeing in Bitcoin, and then potentially the weakness that's creeped back into the Russell 2000. If you notice the Qs where we're basically traded to, you can see, actually I'll pull up the NDX chart since it's a little less choppy and sloppy, but the NDX chart is really retesting this key trend line. If you take your pivot from February, you can see that's simply the resistance trend line we're tagging. Right there. So as long as you stay below that, I mean, you're still technically forming lower high, lower high, lower high. The question is, do we put in another lower low? There's a strong suggestion for that. All right, guys. And you know, if you bounce up here and create another right shoulder, just recognize that there could be a little bit of a bigger head and shoulders forming during this intraday action. So just recognize that if we bounce here and create a little bit of a right shoulder, still underneath this original neckline, then you could see a move down on the Qs all the way down to about, your new neckline would be roughly there. You could see a move all the way back into this gap window. If you're into gap window, there's always a chance you could come back down to fill the gap. If we lose this gap up today in the Qs, that would be pretty big of a drop. The bulls would be dropping the ball. I'm actually going to put the Qs down here, and then I'm going to put the VIX up here, just so the QQQ chart is a little bit bigger. But again, are you forming this distribution pattern? That's the big question. Bitcoin's still very heavy, guys. Bitcoin's still very heavy. All right, guys, I'll be back. Just watching this FSR uptick a little bit. Let's see if we can get that position in the green. That's the only one that's going against us at the moment. So let's see if we can get FSR green. Wow, MSTR at the lows now down on the session 10.36%, guys. 10.36%. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Good to see. Good to see. Great call, Ida. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, thank you. NVIDIA 830 put nearly out. Nice job on that put. Again, I still think that 870 target, 875 target NVIDIA is looking pretty promising. Alright guys, just a quick update. Indices are seeing some sell-off. NVDA triggering a little bit of a 3-minute head and shoulders here. Kind of a weak shoulder, so there's always a chance that we can bounce and negate it. But definitely NVIDIA and semis are seeing some sell-side pressure. Apple as well. Microsoft faded from the high. So you're seeing a lot more red starting to appear on the screen. SMCI down 9% on the session. Monster drop on SMCI. AMD slightly negative as well. VIX still holding this UVXY off 689 as well as FSR, so we are in the driver's seat. So it's been a pretty good day for us. I mean, another day where we've executed profits off of the open, big wins across the board. NVIDIA also coming in much sharper at the moment, which is really hurting the Qs. So if you look at the NVDA chart, that, believe it or not, has almost gone negative. So a full round trip, outperforming on the day, exit liquidity being seen, and it's under a lot of pressure at the moment, NVIDIA. So definitely on watch for a potential day trade long. It will catch an intraday bounce. I repeat, it will. But I don't think that this gap fill is the right technical level to accumulate at just quite yet. Somewhere in this channel is probably a little bit more of a better risk to reward. Keep in mind, though, NVIDIA has had parabolic moves to the upside, so we could see a lot of sell-side pressure. There's a major technical gap all the way down here at 850 as well. Do I think it hits there? No, but there's always a risk and scenario that it could, especially when you're the VIX popping, dollar trying to make a breakout, yields are green, and it does appear that the indices are being slightly faded. Qs are still very strong on the session, so we are observing a lot of continuation strength in some names, but definitely being faded across the semiconductor space. So we'll look at the Qs, keep that on watch. I am going to go silent on the mic, and again, I'll hop back on if anything else changes in regards to trades. But a monster press in the VIX, guys. Sorry guys, my dog's barking.